Hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews, and Iron Man 3 is criminally overrated. Iron Man 3 is a comic book movie, the third in the Iron Man trilogy and the first in the Phase 2 of the MCU. Unlike the first two, this one was not directed by Jon Favreau. This one was directed by Shane Black, who has directed much better movies than this one. It stars Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Guy Pearce, and Ben Kingsley. Although audiences and critics were sort of mixed about this movie, it somehow managed to make over $1 billion. I also don't like the fact that it made twice as much money as another comic book movie that came out that year, which was Man of Steel. The people who liked Iron Man 3 but did not like Man of Steel had the typical mindset of, oh, I didn't like Man of Steel because it was not fun and it made me think. That is not just the problem with a lot of MCU movies, but a lot of movies nowadays that make a ridiculous amount of money. So before I begin, I want to make a few statements. First is that this is an analyzation, not a review, so there will be spoilers throughout. Second is that just because I think this movie is overrated doesn't mean I won't point out some things that I might have liked about it. And finally, this is a copyright disclaimer. This means that I do not own any of the video, audio, or music footage from this movie. So without further ado, here is why I think Iron Man 3 is criminally overrated. We are introduced to Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., who is at a New Year's Eve party in 1999. We are also introduced to a fan of Tony named Aldrich Killian, played by Guy Pearce. But Tony blows him off and we cut to years later. Now as Iron Man, he spends his days making a lot of subpar suits and being a naive hipster.
Jarvis, drop my needle.
But later when he's having a meal with his friend Rhodey, played by Don Cheadle, but I still prefer Terrence Howard, and we see him suffering from panic attacks. I know that he almost died in the first Avengers movie, but it wasn't like he saw someone get blown up or killed. Wouldn't it make more sense if he got it from the first Iron Man movie when he saw stuff like that? There is a big difference between PTSD and acting like a whiny teenager on Tumblr who gets upset over microaggressions or whatever they're called. While this happens, a terrorist known as the Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, is making threats.
You'll never see me coming.
A friend of Tony named Hogan, played by Jon Favreau, gets hurt during a terrorist attack. This then gets Tony fired up to call out the Mandarin to a fight.
And on the off chance you're a man, here's my home address. 10880 Malibu Point, 90265. I'll leave the door unlocked.
Tony puts on his Iron Man suit that has malfunctioned multiple times, then finds out on the news that his house is being attacked. In the first one, Jarvis could detect many airplanes flying miles high in the sky, but could not detect 3 helicopters at average speed. He manages to get away and lands somewhere in Tennessee. There he runs into a boy who is as forgettable and expendable as Catwoman's assistant in The Dark Knight Rises. During this, Rhodey is no longer called War Machine, but is now referred to as Iron Patriot. His suit looks more toy-like than that patriotic-colored Buzz Lightyear toy. Tony finds out that the Mandarin is in Florida, and he sneaks his way in. This is impressive, but wouldn't it have been easier if he would have called, I don't know, the Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D.? In fact, where have they been? A bunch of terrorist attacks have happened and Iron Man's house got blown up, and they are a no-show. Tony then confronts the Mandarin. Now this plot twist is one that people either love or hate.
My name's Trevor Slattery. Don't hurt the face, I'm an actor. Just a role. The Mandarin, see, it's not real.
I definitely hate it. This is such a mockery of the character. It's not like he's a D-list villain. This is Iron Man's main villain in the comics. I know that people shrug it off, but imagine if in The Dark Knight during that interrogation scene if the Joker would have been like, I'm not an anarchist or a psychopath. I'm an actor hired by the mob to scare you away. It is then revealed that the kinda real Mandarin is Aldrich Killian. This looks familiar.
But as I looked out over that city, nobody knew I was there, nobody could see me, no one was even looking. I had a thought that would guide me for years to come.
It tore me apart, but I learned an important lesson. You can't count on anyone.
I'm here to thank you. You gave me the greatest gift that anybody's ever given me. Desperation.
You know, I was right to idolize you.
If The Incredibles was not awesome but a mediocre movie, it would be, well, that works too, but you get my point. He also tells them that he's also captured Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, who he is experimenting on. Yeah, I almost forgot she was in this movie. Rhodey gets captured, and one of Killian's henchmen puts on a suit. Somehow, he was the same height, body type, and head size as Rhodey. Tony then calls upon his suit, and this scene is sort of funny.
5, 4, 3. Come on! 2, 3, 4.
Shut up.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The president gets kidnapped, and Iron Man saves these people in a not half bad action scene. So the president gets kidnapped, and the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. are still a no-show. What, are they still saying not my president? They find out where Killian has taken the president, and Tony activates the house party protocol.
You gotta let go, I'll catch you, I promise.
Then the most idiotic thing in the whole movie happens. Pepper defeats Killian. That would have been like if Bane would have been defeated by Alfred in The Dark Knight Rises. Tony decides to destroy all his suits. Why? That is like if Leonardo da Vinci decided to burn all his work when he retired.
You've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous, I don't paint.
He then gets surgery done to remove the shrapnel from his chest. Why didn't he do that in the second movie and spend all that time creating a new element? And then he decides to quit being Iron Man. Iron Man 3 is such a mess. Many things do not match up with the continuity of the MCU, and the events in this movie are not really brought up ever again. If I was in charge of the MCU, I would definitely disregard this as canon. So that is why I think Iron Man 3 is criminally overrated. So anyway, thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe.